The Lagos state government has unveiled an ambitious plan to invest approximately $9 billion in resilience and infrastructure development project for the 2026 fiscal year in a renewed push to advance environmental sustainability and climate adaptation across the state. The development follows the signing of four separate memorandum of understanding between the Lagos state and the private sector partners, focusing on climate change mitigation and waste-to-wealth initiatives. Speaking on the financing strategy, Dr. Daniel Folayinka, Chief Resilience Officer of the State Resilience Office, made the disclosure during her presentation at the second day of the 11th Lagos International Climate Change Summit. Themed The Blue Economy, Green Money, Financing Africa's Coastal Resilience and Ocean Innovation. The summit featured its first plenary session. Dr. Folayinka explained that the targeted funding source through both government and private sector financing will be deployed across key sectors of the state's economy to support resilience and infrastructure development. And with a population of exceeding 22 million and 187-kilometer coastline, Lagos remain one of the most climate vulnerable megacities in the world, but the state government has continued to model proactive urban and environmental management.
A lot of our transportation when it comes to land is informal and composed of roughly 80-90% of our transport system. So there must be a strategic initiative that would systematically take away those buses away from the road. So within our agency, it's Ramata, we have a program called the BITP, which is Bus Industry Transit Program. In that program, what it does is it systematically takes away those buses and then we scrap them and provide them with cleaner energy buses.
And how do you ensure that people are able to access housing, especially in this climate impacted world that we are living in? And what Lagos State has done has been multifaceted, because when we look at affordability, it's different for everyone. So what the low-income person classifies as affordability is different from what the high-income groups classify as affordability. And Lagos State has begun to work across the various spectrums. So we have the outright sales of houses that people can buy. We have the rent-to-own, that if you cannot afford to buy at once, you are able to rent and maybe you own later. But we need to partner with developers to be able to build low-income housing.
That always comes to my mind is from a World Bank study from a few years ago that identified that in Lagos we have $2 billion of health costs directly related to emissions from the transport sector. That's just, it sounds like a random number, $2 billion. But that, along with that $2 billion is about 11,000 premature deaths annually. And that's tragic. And this is why Lagos State government is at the forefront of this energy transition.
Something that requires full partnership across MDAs. Not just MDAs in government, you also require a lot of partnership from the citizens of the communities we live in to ensure that when we are building a resilient city, everybody understands the part they play. Just like the Permanent Secretary had mentioned, a lot of things we do have very minimal impact to you when you are doing it. But if you look at it holistically, a 1 millimeter rise in sea level every year in the next 10, 100 years, you could tell some cities could be subsumed underwater.
Water is a public good without a doubt. That is where concessional financing, blended financing comes in which you are able to access grants. However, it must show sustainability, even if it's patient capital that is required. The states must also work in stop. I was in one of the NCAP meetings when we were talking about sovereign guarantees, and the state officials were very much against that, to say, you know, the state is not going to guarantee. I think if we are really serious about real mobilizing capital, the state has to provide some kind of guarantees.
Can we turn this huge, challenge into very massive opportunity? I operate in the renewable energy space with focus on what we call decentralized renewable energy. Another study done also by the World Bank through Boston Consulting Group shows that if we put panels on the rooftops in Lagos alone, we can generate 12,500 megawatts of power. I should think that should be higher than what the grid is supplying us. So that's a huge opportunity.